It's day 5 of NATO's public diplomacy tour of America, and the Secretary General is in Chicago to speak to university students at the Harris School of Public Policy. The focus of today's speech is on NATO-Russia relations. Mr. Rasmussen told students it's important for NATO and Russia to work together because both face similar security threats.
Terrorism, fragile states, piracy, proliferation of nuclear weapons. These are all global threats that affect all our nations.
One of the most compelling reasons for working together, Rasmussen stressed, is the fact that Russia and the United States, a NATO member, hold more than 90% of the world's nuclear weapons. Rasmussen praised President Obama for his leadership that led to the ratification of the New START treaty on nuclear arms reductions earlier this year. A sentiment echoed by many of the students, including Andrew Weininger, who's studying for an MA in public policy.
The Secretary General is involved in some very important security matters, particularly between the US and Russia. Considering that we have such a large nuclear arsenal, and Russia has such a large nuclear arsenal, and the threat of those weapons falling into terrorist hands or rogue state hands is extremely important.
Weininger said he's concerned about some of the news stories coming out of Russia these days, but expressed the hope that engaging in a strategic partnership may open up space to discuss issues of democracy, voting, and freedom of the press. Despite these concerns, his fellow public policy student Andrew Means said his generation no longer sees Russia as a threat.
I would say most people in my generation do not view Russia as a threat. We didn't grow up doing the atomic bomb drills, diving into our desks or anything like that. So I don't think we view it as a threat, and definitely not in the same way that our parents did.
Means also says his concern with Russia is more that it may not have the level of security to ensure its nuclear weapons are kept safe. Another hot topic students were keen to talk about was NATO's current campaign in Libya. To those who criticized NATO for intervening, the Secretary General said this:
"You should blame the Gaddafi regime for systematic and absolutely outrageous attacks against its own people."
While many Americans are tired of war as a result of the engagement in Iraq and Afghanistan, Andrew Means says he's glad that NATO has intervened in Libya.
Obviously there was a humanitarian crisis going on, and I'm personally glad we intervened, but I don't want to see it drag on into another conflict as we've seen in Afghanistan and Iraq. And actually one of the things I like about Libya is that it wasn't a unilateral action. It was a multilateral action. It made it more okay for those in America to support the action, but I still feel like there's some fatigue around seeing our papers filled up with stories about us getting involved in foreign countries.
I'm Mike Mühlberger reporting for the NATO channel from Chicago.